All right, guys, let's get back to business. We're in for a world of hurt, guys, because there's a better dwelling article here from a few days ago. I need to discuss it and incorporate it on what's going to happen to the private sector, the small businesses, the small mom and pops, the small people that are just trying to get by. We're in for a major world of hurt. Now, let's go to the article here. It's from Better Dwelling, and it's Canadian homebuyers need 42 large per year for payments in Q1 of 2022, says Desjardins. Okay, so, this kind of throws it out there. It's like it's getting very expensive, and it goes into very specifics here on the article. You can find it at Better Dwelling. It's from May 9th, 2022. And it goes into here where you see there's the cost affordability and going down. This is not the point of the video. And it goes into this part right here. There's a very specific part it goes into. Long-term average of index highlights how overvalued home prices are. Since 2006, the affordability index has an average value of 121.1. This means affordability is 25.3% worse than average, implying significant overvaluation. Canadian real estates are rising while incomes fall. Rising home prices, rising mortgage costs, and falling incomes are converging. The average sale price of a home increased 9.2% in Q1 of 2022 to $782,000 across Canada. Meanwhile, the average after-tax household income fell 0.3 points to $95,061 during the same quarter. To say it's an unusual dynamic for home prices to rise while incomes fall is an understatement. And it goes into the cost of ownership, mortgage, property tax, utilities climbed sharply last quarter. Payments for an average home rose 11.6% in Q1 2022, hitting $42,220 per year. Remember, that's the average home across Canada, not your Toronto and Vancouver high-flying cities. Like those are even more expensive with similar income levels. So that's to keep in mind. Now, this is the problem. If the price of operating or a price of just existing to try and live a normal life in Canada is costing that much per year, what brings the fear to me, like what's making me scared, is how the private sector is going to be on the hook for this. Why? We're going to have to raise our prices? What's going on? Well, no. If we got 30 to 40% of our country working for the public sector, in different levels of government and different layers of government, working for the government, they're going to get increases. They'll get raises accordingly to the cost of increased pricing. The people in the public sector, in the government, whether it's municipal, federal, provincial, whatever it's at, will get increases to adjust for them to live and feed their families. The problem is the people in the private sector, like us, small business owners, that are already taxed to death, are going to be on the hook even further, because now we're going to have to fund this public sector even further. Wait, Mike, they're just going to print more money to pay these people. Then it's going to devaluate any savings we have into zero, into dust, into nothing. And this is the problem we're facing here. And this is going to get a lot worse. I hope I'm wrong that 30-40% of Canada is public sector. I hope it's like 10-20%. Everyone I speak to, or majority of people that I have spoken to, or people that I've come across, a majority that work for the government at some level. And it's scary that there's very little funding happening when the private sector or the small guy really isn't as big. So this is a very important thing, and this is what's dawning on me. The price is going to $42,000 per year, and then it goes into Canadian real estate is about to blow past the late 80s bubble. We remember what happened to that, but at this time, you need to remember something here, okay, guys? The real estate bubble in the 80s, okay, in the late 80s, if you guys remember that real estate bubble was tied to wages. That real estate bubble was tied to incomes, and people just weren't making enough to catch that real estate thing. Canada's real estate is tied to money laundering, not income and wages. Because if you're going to tie the income and wages to what people make in my small town of 7,000 people, housing should be in around 1 to 170,000, maybe 225 for an average size home. All right, you want some proof? We've been talking about this for ages. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the late 80s bubble. Yeah, real estate was tied to incomes, not to Real estate was tied to incomes back in the day, not to money laundering. And there's the record flight, capital flight, 43.6 billion. This is like Canadian fake news. So this is like the actual real news, fake news. A record flight of capital, 43.6 billion from Hong Kong to Canada as China cracks down. So electronic funds, and that's why we had the biggest housing market in Canada, because a lot of it is dirty money. And if you look up, you'll just see across our channel, you could see all the money laundering and everything that's been happening in Canada, and how basically we are like underground. Look at this, underground banks laundering money, how-to guide to destroy your country's middle class. That was 4 years ago, and no one saw that video. So there it is right there, and this is why we're in this predicament that we're in right now. Housing needs to add up, or housing needs to be within line of wages, and it's not. And as the public sector keeps growing and getting bigger, they keep getting the raises on the backs of the people that are actually paying these taxes to fund whatever it is they're funding. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really look forward to listening and hearing what you guys have to say about this, because they're just going to tax us out of existence, and it's going to get to a point where we just can't do it. Look at Launder your money. We made this video 4 years ago. Park your money in Canada. 2 gas stations in Vancouver sold for redevelopment. So that's the shortage of gas stations we were having a few years back. Mike Martins here. I have spoken.